Hi, and welcome to Mitzvah number 5, the Mitzvah to sanctify God's name in public. Let's take a look at the English right away. It is a positive commandment to sanctify Hashem openly, as Scripture states, and I will be hallowed among the children of Israel. This we must do by submitting our life to death if necessary, and with all our might, to make His faith widely known. Be His name blessed. Thus, if others wish to compel someone to turn away from our faith, he should not want at all to listen, but should submit his life to execution on account of this, like convert or die. Neither should he mislead the one compelling him, to make him think that he has turned heretic, although in his heart he believes in God, right? So faking it is not okay. So they should not give the one forcing him to transgress any grounds to think that he has denied the blessed God. If the one applying the force means to make him change his faith, and it is in public, which means before 10 Jews, then even over any transgression, and even if it is not at the time of religious persecution, he is to be killed sooner than transgress. So let's say we're not dealing with the time of religious persecution, but I don't know, a gang is bullying a guy and making him do something against the Torah because they want to see him violate the Torah. You can't do that, because it's out in public, it's before 10 Jews, and once it's before 10 Jews, the rules become much more strict. Let's continue. If it is in a time of religious persecution, then it gets even more strict, heaven forbid. Then even in private, he is to accept death sooner than transgress, even if someone comes to him and it's just him and the oppressor. He has to be willing to give up his life for any of the commandments. If, however, idol worship, consanguineous sexual relations or adultery, or bloodshed is involved, as the act he is forced to commit, right? If they want you to do a forbidden sexual relationship, to worship an idol, or to kill somebody, then even if it is in private and not a time of religious persecution, for those three have the strictest rules at all time, and even if the one forcing him is intent only on his own pleasure and not on making him give up his faith, he's to accept death sooner than transgress. And if it is in public, he thus sanctifies the divine name openly, and there is no deed higher than that. Martyrdom in public to defend the faith is the greatest deed that a person can possibly do. If someone transgresses this and does not sanctify the divine name in a situation where he is duty bound to hallow it, he has disobeyed a positive commandment and transgresses a negative one, not to desecrate the divine name of heaven, as Scripture states, and you shall not profane my holy name. Okay, and this will come up later on in the negative commandments as well. It is in force everywhere and at every time for both man and woman. The idea here that you're violating both a positive and a negative commandment is significant because it indicates the severity. If it were merely a positive commandment to try to deceive somebody that you are quasi-converting, that's very different than if there's a negative commandment associated with it. It's much more serious. Of course, this became halacha l'maisa. In particular, this became practical with the Jews of Spain at the time of the expulsion from Spain, and the Marranos, those who were secret Jews, both in the Old World and in the New World. But that's a complicated, fascinating story for another day, the story of the crypto Jews, who still in Southwest United States, you still have crypto Jews. You have people who are practicing their Spanish in every way, shape, or form, except that they have these weird practices. Like they don't eat blood, and they don't eat pork, and every Friday night they go into a windowless room in the middle of the house and light candles. So you have crypto Jews still. These are Jews who, under duress, converted and maintained a secret identity, and that secret identity became their identity. So, perhaps there's a lesson in that, right? In many communities where people secretly were Jewish, their identity basically eventually disappeared. But that's a discussion for Jewish history and not for us. So that is the end of the mitzvah that we did today, which is to sanctify God's name openly. Again, there's different tiers of severity. There is violating a religious act in private, where it's not one of the big three, that's the least. Then if it's in public, you're violating a religious act. because somebody wants you to violate a religious act, but it's not a time of persecution. Then there's, if it's a time of persecution, it doesn't even have to be before 10 Jews. Even if it's in private at the time of religious persecution, that's even more severe. And nothing's more severe than the big three. No matter what the circumstances are, the big three, which are murder, idol worship, and forbidden sexual relations, you can't violate those three. You have to sanctify the name of God and be prepared to give your life. This is a mitzvah which nowadays, most of us, I would say, have not been subjected to, but unfortunately is very much a part of our history for millennia. This mitzvah was very, very practical, one-on-one, which Jews had to know, because at any given time they might be faced with a situation of having to sanctify the name of God in public. Next time, we will advance to mitzvah number 6. It is a positive commandment to walk in the ways of the blessed God with all of one's abilities. That'll be next time. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.